Welcome back. We're talking to the Principal Secretary, Labour and Skills Development, the Honourable Geoffrey Kaituko, who joins us in studio. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa, and PS for that matter. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much for having me. Asante sana.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Probably to start us off, you could probably explain to Kenyans what your department exactly deals with when we say you're the Principal Secretary, Labour and Skills Development.
Thank you very much for that question. I think this is one of those departments that Kenyans are very familiar with because of the industrial actions which sometimes happen, and we are the ones who do the mediation. So we promote harmonious industrial actions, harmonious industrial relations between employers and workers. And you will see that on the, as we move forward, especially during the celebration for the International Labour Day. But more importantly, I think this department has been redefined, one, to connect Kenyans to opportunities within our own borders and also without, that is globally. Number two, to equip Kenyans with the skills that are required by the modern labour market. So other than promoting the traditional relations, harmonious relations, we are also focused on ensuring that we reduce unemployment and also that we equip Kenyans with the necessary skills. That's why it is labour and skills development.
Let's talk about unemployment for that matter.
Yes.
In 2021, 6.6%. That was the rate of unemployment. We are looking at 2023 now. Probably about several months since you assumed the office of Principal Secretary. What is the rate of unemployment in the Republic?
The rate of unemployment in the Republic as of the last quarter is 4.9.
4.9?
Yes. But you know, this is something that has accumulated over time, owing to COVID, which made many people jobless. It rendered many Kenyans to lose their jobs, to stay at home, especially those in the private sector. Now, every year we graduate about 900,000 Kenyans from different colleges. And then only about 150,000 are absorbed into the formal sector, meaning that we have about 750,000 every year of our youth who need to be placed in the place of work for them to get gainful employment, whether it is here at home or outside this country. So indeed, yes, the unemployment is very high, but we are doing something about it. For example, you know, the whole agenda of the Kenya Kwanza government is to promote the micro and medium enterprises, small-scale enterprises, the establishment of the Hustler Fund, the policies that the government is adopting to ensure that we have many of our small businesses, you know, being able to run, even despite the situation that many people find themselves in. So investment in agriculture, in leather, in manufacturing, is going to give us even many more jobs. That is on the macro level. But to come more specifically to the State Department for Labour, one, we are involved in labour export because Kenya is a country that has labour surplus. There are countries that demand for the kind of labour that we produce here in Kenya, like for example nurses, doctors, accountants, lawyers, engineers. And many of those countries are countries whose population has aged. And so, like most of the Western countries, the Gulf states, and also Australia. So then meaning that we as a country must ensure that as much as possible, we take the surplus labor to those destinations because we have surplus here in Kenya. So that is one of the ways, and we have entered into bilateral labor agreements with some of those countries. We have also proposed new bilateral labor agreements with about 8 other countries so that we are able to export this labor to.
Let me get you on other questions that you add more to it.
Yes.
Because the president speaking today in Rwanda, and I think he has spoken severally about it, about Kenya's biggest investment being the human capital.
Absolutely.
And what we will be exporting. I'm just here wondering, the number of youths that you cite as being jobless or unemployed, what are these set of skills that they need, probably locally? Let's just even focus more abroad. What kind of skills, what set of skills do they need to get these jobs and probably eradicate this number of jobless youth that we have?
Yes, if you look at the local market, the surveys that have been done, you'll find that most of the marketable skills today are technical skills. You look for electricians, plumbers, mechanics, you name them. And then IT or ICT jobs. Nurses, of course, are on demand. So you find that a lot of those jobs are really technical and vocational, artisanal jobs. And we are a country that is a typical British colony, where you produce more lawyers and more graduates in the area of humanities compared to engineers and technical persons. And that is the situation in the Far East. In the Far Eastern countries, you'll find that most people there, the educational system is designed to produce more scientists, more technicians, people who produce. So for us to have a productive economy, we have to ensure that we equip our youth with the kind of skills that are needed in this economy, and those predominantly are technical skills. And that is why there's emphasis on TVETs. Technical and vocational training institutions, because we want to produce a critical mass of people with skills that are needed by this economy and other economies as well within the region. Right. Let me ask you a simple question. If you had a plumbing problem in your house, do you know how difficult it is to get one here?
It is.
Just here in Nairobi.
It's very difficult.
Yes. Yeah. Even an electrician. Sometimes it's very hard to get. So you find that we don't train enough people in that area, and yet, or rather in those areas, and yet those are the skills that are relevant. Okay. But to bring, let me bring another point here. Now, there are a lot of people who have these skills, but they have never gone to any technical institution. They are local fundis, or electricians, or mechanics. Now we've introduced what is called recognition of prior learning, RPL. Based on the experiences of these people, we get to assess them and certify them in the local TVET institution. They don't need to go to college for 3 years or to an institute for 4 years for them to be examined again. They already have the skills. So ours is to assess them, and we do that through NITA, National Industrial Training Authority. So RPL is one of the new schemes that we've introduced under the Kenya Kwanza administration. Yes. All right.
Let's get, what one would call the elephant in the room. Labor migration.
Yes.
Recently, the ministry was blacklisting employment bureaus that are taking workers to the Gulf and other areas where, of course, they've been subjected to abuse. The blacklisting of employment bureaus, is it a reactionary move by government? How does this happen under the watch of government?
Well, thank you. That's a very important question, and I know many Kenyans are waiting to get a response from me. Let me say this. Labor migration is something that has been going on for many years. But in the recent years, we have had a situation in which Kenyans in the Gulf countries have either come back dead, or some of them are they get into problems. They lose their travel documents, or they find themselves in medical conditions which they didn't have when they left home and went to those countries. Now, what I would say, we went to immediately. I was appointed together with my cabinet secretary. We took a trip to Saudi Arabia. What had happened is that for 6 years, the Ministry of Labor officials had never been allowed to go to Saudi Arabia. So the people there got neglected because there was no bilateral engagement between labor ministry in Kenya and the Ministry of Human Resources and social development in Saudi Arabia. So we went there in early January. That was hardly a month after I came into office. We met our counterparts, the ones in charge of labor, including domestic labor, because predominantly we export domestic labor to Saudi Arabia. And therefore, out of our engagement with our Saudi counterparts, I'll tell you that the situation has now stabilized. We also took a number of measures other than meeting our counterparts. We were able to take a proactive labor attaché. He's called Joseph Makar. He's the one who deals with all cases of distress from within Saudi Arabia. Now, unfortunately, Saudi Arabia is a big country. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is a big country. And one labor officer cannot be able to adequately take care of Kenyans who are very far from Riyadh.
Across the country.
Yes. So, and this is why we proposed that we needed an additional 2 labor attachés to be taken to Saudi Arabia. We went together with our diaspora counterpart. One of the innovations that Kenya Kwanza has made is creating the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. And we work very closely with them. Now, Diaspora Affairs has been able to help us in the area of attending to the welfare of Kenyans also in distress. Like, for example, when it comes to consular services, if you lost your travel documents, it is very easy for our counterparts in Diaspora Affairs to ensure that your documents are processed in good time and then you travel back home. So now we have put in place a mechanism which has enabled us really to reduce the number of issues that are there between us and Saudi Arabia. Every 2 weeks, we have a meeting with our our Saudi counterparts. It is a virtual meeting. We first started when we were there. Now we engage and we discuss everything. And then Kenya, one of the difficulties that Kenyans had in Saudi Arabia is they didn't know where to get help. So what we've told the labor attaché is to create awareness among the Kenyan communities in Saudi Arabia of where they can access help in cases of distress.
Let me ask this, PS, before we wind up, because where they can get help, they didn't know where they could get help.
Initially, yes.
Yes, but there's, a bottom line here. The amount of abuse subjected to some of the domestic workers that we take to Saudi Arabia, and it has been constant. As a government, did you get to understand the origin, or why is it that Kenyan workers, and not just Kenyan workers, probably even our neighboring countries, are subjected to such inhumane acts, in Saudi Arabia? Did you get to understand what the problem really was?
Yes, we did. We were in Saudi Arabia for a week, and we met the domestic workers. We visited them in the Sakan, and so they told us the experiences, and then we also met the Saudi authorities. What I will tell you is that indeed there may be such cases, and there are in fact those cases. And those cases, what happened previously is that they were unreported. We'll get to know them through social media. Just because people didn't have another outlet within Saudi Arabia. Now, because we have engagements and the Kenyan domestic workers in Saudi Arabia know who to report to, you'll find that the authorities are now able to respond to cases of distress among Kenyans. And so I'll say that because of the measures that we've been able to put in place, a lot of Kenyans who are working in Saudi Arabia, and there are many who are thriving, a lot of those Kenyans who are in distress also are now able to access support from our mission there and from our labor attaché, who is also very proactive. And I encourage Kenyans to reach out to us, to come forward, especially those who are facing difficulties with their employers. And employers across the world, even here in Kenya, we have bad employers, all right? It's not something that is isolated to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, we also have bad employers here. And here at home, we are also trying to fix that. Yeah, so within that other case, we rely on our Saudi counterparts who have been very cooperative in dealing with cases that have been reported.
All right.
You see, a case that has not come to our attention, we cannot be able to attend to it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I want to give you a minute on that camera to probably tell Kenyans what they should hold you to account for after 5 years as the PS for Labor and Skills Development. That camera.
All right. I would like to...
In a minute.
Yes, I would like to assure the Kenyan people that I and my team are going to do our best in terms of promoting the welfare of the Kenyan workers, both here at home and abroad. And so that is something that they can count on me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is the PS Geoffrey Kaituko. He's a PS Labor and Skills Development. And actually, if you can just eliminate that story of exploitation and what Kenyans go through, not just in the Gulf, but other places where labor is exploited, obviously, we will hold you to account to that. Thank you very much, PS, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana.
Asante.
That's how we put a cap on the interview tonight. Don't go too far. We have more news lined up for you, including sports with Daniel Wahome.